Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Developing the Leader Within. I'm Enrique, your host, and today I am on the fourth leg. This is amazing, right? Because we've been at this for the whole month of July. If you don't know, July is it's my birthday month, and I love to travel. And internationally is what I had designated for July. And today we're going to Australia, Sydney to be exact, and today we're with Vandana Mohture, and she is going to be talking to us about leadership and mindset. Vandana, thank you for taking your time to be with us today. And I appreciate you being with us.
Thank you, Enrique. I'm delighted to be here and to be having this conversation with you. First of all, belated birthday wishes for your birthday. I hope this year turns out to be the most fulfilling year for you. And welcome to Sydney. So what if you cannot
Outstanding.
actually travel, but we're here. So
I
it's
know. And, we were talking before this whole thing as we were planning this out. Folks, we've been planning this very day since October last year. And so it's wonderful to see all the different leadership philosophies from around the world. And if you are not well versed in world travel, this is the way to get it. So thank you once again for being with us. If you wouldn't mind taking some time, tell us a little bit about you.
sure. And once again, thank you. And to all our viewers and listeners who are watching this or hearing this, I have to say, when Enrique reached out to me in October last year, and I have mentioned this to him many times, but when he reached out to me in October last year and he said, would you be available for a podcast 1 year later? I'm like, I was amazed. Look at this man's organizational skills. Like he is thinking about like so much ahead of time, and not just thinking. You've actually planned it. You'd reached out. You were arranging for it. So if you have to, work on your time management skills, reach out to this guy right here. So little about me. I am a mindset and a leadership coach. A behavior strategist. I am based in Sydney and I'm working globally. In my past life, as I like to call it, I was a computer science engineer. I was a Java developer. That's how I started. And I served the IT industry for 10 years, lived in India, US, and now in Australia. And through all of that, what I realized is that uh, the gift of mindset, a healthy mindset, can help us ease into any transition in life and live a fulfilling life. And that's what motivated me to take this path, and here I am living my purpose and loving it. And yeah, gives me an opportunity to interact with wonderful people like you.
Thank you so much. Now, you mentioned your past life. I love to hear the whole backdrop. Right, computer science is not an easy thing, a field to get into. You talk about Java, and my head is just woo, it like the Matrix, right? And so it's amazing how you can go from that science based, basically trade, and transition into more of the soft, the body, the mind, which is just amazing. And we share some time with the Circle of Legends, and that's where we met, mentoring and sharing some thoughts with young people around the world. Specifically, India was the target, but that exposed me to a lot of great people. You was one of them. And when I heard you speak, I said, mindset. Whenever that comes up on my podcast, I have to have Mandela with me. And so, mindset is something that we all share. We all have minds. In one way or another, it's going to be affected, whether in a positive or a negative way. How did you get into that specific subject?
Yeah, it's quite a story. um, I was always curious about how people think. I mean, right from my young age, I know that the primary driving question for me was, I want to know. One, I was very curious, and I want to know how you think, because I realized that we all have similar gifts available to us, but how we utilize them comes down to how we think. And it's not about how we think about the world, it's about how we think about ourselves as well, what we think about ourselves. So, I wasn't aware of coaching industry whatsoever. I had no idea that this industry even existed. But I knew that when I got into engineering as well, I knew this is not the field where I belong. Um, but coming from an Indian background, you know that if you become an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, you're secured. And that's how I got into engineering, because that's what everybody around me was doing. My role models pretty much did that. So I said, okay, this is how I need to move forward, and I'm so thankful because it gave me the kind of life it gave me. And but while I was going through it, I knew that it's systems don't call me. I have to be with people. And although no matter what job you do, you have to, it's about people anyway. Um, but it wasn't still satisfying me because it was more software oriented connection with people. And I wanted to engage on a really like a personal level and work with people on like real essential emotional issues than the system issues. And I didn't know how to go about it. I knew what is it that I want to offer, but I didn't know how to, like, how do I make a profession out of it? And and it was just by, I don't know how do you say it. I took a break when my little one was born while we were in the US. In fact, we were in Tampa when I wasn't working, and that time challenged me like anything because I was so used to doing things. Suddenly, I'm here with my kid, and just the two of us. And you know how kids are. I was trying to control the whole situation, and I realized that it's not going to work that way. I cannot. So I have to let go of and just surrender and learn from him instead of me trying to teach him anything. I'm just going to learn and observe. And it gave me a chance to live mindfully and also reconnect with myself. And that's why my whole motto is that you need to reconnect with yourself. You need to really know who you are and in your core, and from there let everything else stem. So when I started questioning myself, what matters to me the most, what is it? And it came down to, again, thoughts and thoughts. What is that you think about you? What is that you think about your loved ones? What is that you think about the external world? What do you think about people? And the values of connection, trust, um, association, relationships, and building them from there and taking responsibility and accountability. So basically, self leadership was standing out. And I said, like, what do I do with this? How do I bring it all together? And I meditated a lot at that time. And when you don't have the answer, you just say that, like, just be and say, universe, like, give me something. I don't know what to do with this. And I don't know what to call it, but I call it a divine intervention. That I got messages from people like 10 years, when I was 10 years old, random random messages connected on Facebook, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and they somehow started saying that, how I was there for them, and how, whether I know it or not, how it shaped their life differently, how that perspective helped them. And that's how I knew. I mean, this is what I want to do. By chance, I met a life coach. I wasn't aware of that. It was just again another freak incident. We met once, we connected on Facebook, and I got to know that she's a life coach. I looked up the life coaching trainings. Thereafter, we were moving to Sydney. I got here and I said, this is what I found it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pursue coaching. So I enrolled for a 3-year course. And as I started studying and I surrounded myself with the community, I knew that I found my home. This is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm going to be doing. And when I wanted to announce it to the world, I said, mindset is what matters to me the most. So I'm going to go ahead and work with people on utilizing the power of their mindset.
That's amazing. You mentioned a couple of things in there. First of all, what are you thinking? The $1 million question, right? What are you thinking? And as I have mentored and coached CEOs and people in leadership, it's always, what were they thinking when they developed this policy? What
Mhm.
were they thinking when they, you know, barked this order? What were they thinking when this decision was made? And if we could really get what were they thinking, right? That's one of those questions that you see normally when people mess up in life. You go, what were they thinking? It's the million
Absolutely.
dollar question, right? And so you 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 got through this training, you found your home. I could see the smile on your face when you're even telling the story, which is just wonderful because it tells me that you really, really not only have a passion, but your joy is in it. And what better way to work than actually in what you enjoy? And so as we ask these questions about, what were they thinking, what am I thinking, which is another thing that you say, you have to, for you have to pause and realize, what are you thinking, and before anybody else can answer their question, you should be answering that. So I love that you found your home. I love that you're doing this. I love that I get to talk to you and let you tell us about mindset. And so you found your home, you're happy where you are, you're doing this thing. Let's talk about that mindset. First, internally, right? First, the person, and then we'll dive into the
Mm,
leadership side because that's definitely somewhere where I want to drive this conversation. But first, the person, right? Because I've always said, even to leaders, I say, hey, leadership starts with you. Leadership starts at home. It
mm.
is home base. And I'm a firm believer, if the home base is not right, that's it. So let's talk about that home base, that personal mindset.
Absolutely. And what you shared, I love what you shared here, that it's the home base. First, we need to know about what is it that we think, what is it that drives us, and that's where the mindset comes. So this is what I discuss in most of the workshops and trainings I conduct as well. That how do you discover your success mindset? And it's really I've divided into a four-quadrant model. And what comes down to is first, what are our beliefs? How often do we pause to question what are my beliefs? Most of the times we pick those beliefs during our childhood. We are not even aware that we formed those beliefs based on the awareness that we had at that point in time. It's not that, not trying to judge ourselves, but really just understanding what were my beliefs, what were those defining moments that caused those beliefs. And then questioning ourselves that do those beliefs serve me today, do they, or am I just in this pattern of doing things a certain way because of those beliefs? So questioning ourselves about what those beliefs are, and also at the same time noticing who is inspiring us today, who are those people from where we're driving inspiration, and getting curious about what their beliefs are. So we always need point A and point B. If we don't know where we're going, we're not going anywhere. We're just probably flowing through. But to have that growth mindset, you need to know where you are based on where you came from and where you are going. So question what your beliefs are and where you're going, what beliefs you want. Second one is to really understand what are the attributes, what are your values, in fact what are the qualities that you highly focus on, or what, first of all, addressing yourself, acknowledging yourself and validating yourself for what's important to you, what is it that matters the most. It's different for everyone, and whether we know it or not, it's our compass towards life. We see world from that lens. Our values, so knowing what our values are, and again how they're serving us today, and if they're not, then what are the values we want to incorporate based on where we want to go. So that's the second one. Then third is knowing what our standards are. It's not about the status that we hold in the society, not those standards. What are our personal standards? How do we want to show up for the world? When I say something, I do it. That's a standard. So knowing what our standards are, and what are the expected standards, that what are the standards that we expect from the people that we work with or live with. um, Again, it's not forcing your standards onto it, but becoming very clear about what your boundaries are really, and being vocal about sharing those. And the fourth one is knowing expectations, knowing what are your expectations from yourself, and again what are your expectations from the world, from the people around you. Becoming very clear about, and it's not pushing yourself too hard, but I always say that we must be able to trust ourselves to have higher expectations from ourselves, not in a negative way, but something that drives us forward, that yes, I can do this. Like you had this expectation that I will be running through with this podcast for a year, which is I'd say it is a high expectation, and it's good to have those expectations because that's what keeps you going. But becoming consciously aware of it. So mindset is formed of these, essentially formed of these four things, which is driving us whether we know it or not. So once we become aware of what's driving us, that just helps us gain more clarity about how we can proceed forward.
You just said enough to have somebody work on themselves for a lifetime, right? And it's just amazing how much we really have to detail in our life to get to the right mindset before we even let anybody else in. And so you mentioned two things that I wrote down. Number one was today, right? This is the day and the only day you have. You don't have yesterday, and tomorrow is not promised. Yet we live most of our lives in yesterday and tomorrow, never in today.
Mm,
And most people that have challenge in mindset, properly categorizing their mindset in order to fully enjoy today, forget about the past, and look forward to the future, because there's just so much going on, so much noise around us, so many things are competing for our attention, that we fail in the today. And when you talk about, uh, is it working for you today? If it's not, then you need to put that stuff in a category. Maybe it goes back, and I view life as a bag, right?
mm,
Life
mm,
is a bag. You have it in the back on your backpack.
mm.
You don't even realize you have this backpack.
Yeah.
But all along life, people have been putting in, you've been putting in, and before you know it, it's just you're heavy laden, right? You can't go, and it's like, why can't I? Why can't? Well, if you look in the bag, and this is why I love how you said about today, is it serving your today? Is it serving? Because a lot of times we move about the world with things that no longer serve us. It just doesn't serve us, and we're carrying it. It's
Mm,
almost it's a burden, right? And
mm,
and you also mentioned where you are. That takes a level of consciousness that most people don't care to even invest in, right? Because they just want to go, go, go. It requires a pause. It
mm,
requires some type of reflection where you could say, okay, hey, I'm living today. Are these things really helping me?
mm,
And if not, do I have something to replace it with? Because
mm,
I'm going to have to get rid of this, but then, hey, what? There's going to be a void. I don't want to
mm,
just be a void. I want to
mm,
replace that with something that's going to serve me where I am going, but today, where you
mm,
are. And I often tell people, you know, leaders need to know how to lead people where they are, not
mm,
where they expect them to be.
mm,
Because the big disconnect is that a person is being required to do something by a leader, but they just are not capable at this moment. But
mm,
the leader's seeing them down the road and saying, why can't you produce this? And so most of the challenges are there. But I love how you put those two things out there. And hey, you put four things out there actually. and we could go dive into all of those. But the knowing where you are today, and also uh, what really is working for you, is a wonderful way to start this whole thing out. Um, where have you seen the biggest challenges from people adopting this four prong process to mindset? Because I'm sure it a lot of people share it.
absolutely. And I loved again what you shared, Enrique. It's where you are, because as you said, what's happened has happened already. It's brought you to right this moment here. And where you're going to go is just an imagination. It might happen the way you want. It's out of your control. All you know that it's you here, and it's only when you know where you are is when you can travel. Because how do you start the journey? Which direction do you take? You need to know where you are. So it's at the crux of the foundation of everything. And frankly, why we need to do this exercise, which is like as you said, it might take a lifelong, um, but if we leave ourselves, it might take a lot lifelong. But if we consciously give ourselves time to think from those perspectives, why it helps is because we go in the past because of certain past incidences or things that have happened or things that we are holding on to. But if we become clear about, what is it, what we want to keep, what we don't want to keep, and we have that awareness, and wherever we want to go, it's a conscious decision, not an autopilot. It brings us to the present. And again, when we become very clear about where we want to go, not being attached to whether we get there or not, but just having a general guideline of where we want to go, that stops us from worrying about the future. Because now I have a clarity, I know what I can do. Whether it happens or not, at least I know what I can do. Again, that brings me straight to the center, to the present, because now I'm so clear around my past and my future. What challenges people faced working with clients, it's one of the most difficult exercise that we do together. And frankly, as a coach, you would have known that we cannot give anybody their answers. What we can do is give them a structure, ask questions. So when they start on this journey, what they've shared most of the times, it's very difficult for them to even go there. So it's important to give certain insights or share anecdotes of how I did that exercise, or what are the most questions that people ask themselves. Maybe think from these angles, and then giving them those pointers to think and start thinking about. So it's a thought pattern that you want to get into, and once you get there, you can start coming up with what matters to you the most. But yes, it takes time for them to make them pause and like even think, as you said, to even make them consciously think. Um, but yeah, if we give ourselves time, our mind has all the data. It has all the data that we need. The subconscious has stored it. We just want to consciously access it, and we'll find it. Yeah, when we ask ourselves this question, we'll find it.
Absolutely. The other day I was perusing the news, and there was a almost 90-year-old lady that completed her master's
Oh, wow.
after decades and decades and decades of no school, and so when I saw that, I said, Here's a human being, has this a mind just like we all do. Yet I see younger folks limit themselves, and here's this lady that, for all intents and purposes, by the world standards, is almost on the other side, right? Lord bless her and give her many more. But she said, "I'm not done.
Mm.
Wait till you see when I'm done with this." Right? And I loved that, hearing that from her, because it was an affirmation of, I am here today. I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And at that age, it just really warmed my heart, because there's a lot of people still trying to figure it out at different stages in life, and that's okay. That's your journey, and you just need to know that the journey you're on is your journey, and you're not riding somebody else's train. You're not on somebody else's tracks. You're on your journey, and as long as you're there,
Absolutely.
and take a good positive outlook on where you're gonna go or where you intend on going. And I love how you say,
Absolutely.
hey, you got to know where you are today. If you're going to end up somewhere else that you want to go, right? Because that's where the whole journey starts from.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, I love this quote. What I'd heard this, I forget who's the person saying it, but they said that it's only when you climb the mountain is when you know how many more mountains you're supposed to climb. But you have to get there to be able to see all the further hurdles. If you're not there, you could imagine whatever you want to imagine, but you have to climb it first to know. and you have to walk that path. And the the news report that you shared about the lady completing, I have a similar story. When I took my first coaching training, like in-person training, um, there was a lady sitting next to me. She was 90 years old, and this I was just amazed to see her. She has this beautiful red lipstick and her nails well done, and she was already in like really keen on and greeting everybody with a smile. I was sitting right next to her, and I was wondering, like, here I am still questioning if I should leave my career path and, like, get into this full time. How do I want to proceed with this? And I could see her, and I knew it was a sign. You know how when you said that, know it's telling you something, that if she can do it now, what's stopping me from taking this step forward, now? So I just, I took that inspiration from her. I said, this is what I'm doing. I don't know where it leads me, but I know I'm doing this.
I chuckle because I remember a conversation I had with my son, and he says, "Dad, why you like these cars?" Yeah, I like Mercedes. And he says, "Why you like these cars? You can get
Man with a
another car.
style.
You can get other cars." I said, "Yeah, but when I was younger, it was a poor environment. That's just the way it was." And I remember telling myself, if you ever going to get yourself a nice car, do it early.
Mm.
I always see, you can always count on, if you see a nice car, you look in the window, and it's usually an old person. That's it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be old and get nice things. I want to enjoy a nice thing, and then hey, I'll get those other cars later. But and it's not on the material side. It's more of the enjoying my today. Now,
Absolutely.
obviously, fiscally wise, you have to be fiscally wise
Yeah.
in order to enjoy that without any headaches. But if you can do it early, enjoy it. And I'm sure that you must have felt like, wow, uh, a lady that really could say, give you life life skills and life training, it would be a 90-year-old, right? But ended up being a source of inspiration for you, and I love that. you know sh- if she did, if yeah, hopefully she did finish her training, but if she did not finish that day, she did her duty. She
Oh, yeah.
inspired you to keep going, and what a life, what a life.
Absolutely. And I loved, again, this the wonderful example, and a like a I think the crux of the session here today, that do it now, whatever you can. And it's not about the materialistic things. It's about gaining that experience, because it's only after you experience it is you know the worth of it, the value of it. Because in our imagination, maybe getting somewhere might be so important to us, but when we actually get there, we realize that, oh, was it just this? And it's not about where you go, it's about who you become on that journey. So if you keep rediscovering yourself, you become that person. There's so much more to become. So yeah, I mean, I just loved what you shared. Do it, like, now, experience it and go forward. Take that experience with you.
Now let's talk about leadership for a little while, because we're highlighting the fact that individually,
Mm,
regardless of your titles or your jobs, or anything, your upbringings or anything of that nature, you have to take time to get your own mind set correct. Here's the problem, and most of the obstacles come that you have an individual that has not gotten to that point yet, and is now thrusted into a position where he has several, or she has several bodies, people that they have to lead on a daily basis, that may not have
mm,
taken also those steps to get where they need to be in a collective mind or individual mind, let alone a collective mind. And we see a lot of obstacles comes from those. If I was a leader, and let's say I didn't take the time, uh, I just allowed my bosses to kind of thrust me into this position, because most of the time the most effective technician is the one that's
Yeah.
thrown into the leadership
Mm,
position, not fully qualified to lead, but hey, at least they know how to do the job. And
mm,
unfortunately, I consider that a very poor model
mm,
to integrate leaders into the group setting. But let's say I am that leader. uh, what should I be thinking about, uh, getting myself ready, because now I have multiple minds that
mm,
I'll have to deal with,
mm,
and figure out what were they thinking.
mm. What an important question to ask, and you presented so well, because as you said, most of the times now what we see is a technician, a really good technician is sent into the leadership position, and I mean, I feel that it's because of the education system we had back then, which needed to focus on technicians at that point in time because that's what the need of the hour was, and that's why they created the technicians. And now we have a world full of technicians, and we we somewhere through our system fell back on giving the leadership skills or the opportunities to develop leadership skills. But anyways, now that the leader got here, you got here, say, and now you want to know what is it that I want to do from here. Now I'm here, like, how do I prepare myself? I always, working with leaders, frankly, I by accident got into leadership coaching. Really, it was only mindset coaching that I was thinking of, and I was really not focused on. I had been in the corporate world, but I was focusing on more the general population that I was not getting to interact with. But I saw that more and more high achieving executives, leaders were getting in touch because they wanted to go to the next level. So they started. I got a chance to work with a lot of them, and um, most of it was the fear of getting into that position at next level. And um, my the way I look at leadership is that leadership is love. That's what it is. So ground yourself with love first, and then again, as it comes down to you. How do you talk to yourself? How do you see yourself? How do you love yourself? Do you think, okay, the world thinks your managers have pushed you into this position? Do you think you're capable? Do you think you trust yourself with this? We need to assess ourselves with that, because if we are leading with no trust in self, and I'm not saying trust in a way that I know everything, they'll never know everything. That's the biggest principle that there is, we'll never find out everything about everything. So trusting yourself that no matter what happens, I'll be by my side, that's the kind of trust that you need. That's all. So ground yourself on those emotions, that how do I see myself? Do I trust myself enough on taking this up? And from a place of trust and love, give that away to all of your team. Again, to understand where they're coming from, what's going on for them, empathizing with. And the most important is, for everything comes down to connection. Connection, when I say connection, it's not about how many connections you have on LinkedIn, really, or what's your network is. Yes, it's also about that. But how do you connect with this position where you are now? How do you connect with it? What makes it important for you? What is your why? Like, when you're here, is it only because someone pushed you to, or is it something because you want to serve in a certain way, deliver? What's your highest intention or your purpose from here? So connect with your purpose, and then connect. When you connect it to your purpose, then communicate that vision to your team. How do you communicate that to others? And how do you connect with them again, with your team, for the team or organization, whatever that is for you, in the role that you are. So connection, communication, and collaboration. I believe it comes down to these three things first. It's very important to ground yourself in these three things, to then lay out the strategies, to go forward and achieve the kind of vision that's important for not just your team, but to the organization as a whole. We often see people working in silos, like they think that I want to make my team successful. But we need to understand the bigger picture. Your team is going to be even more successful if it's aligning with the organizational goals. So, are you aware of where is it that your organization is heading? What is it that they're looking to achieve, and how your team is contributing and aligning to meeting that purpose? Because we are all part of the bigger structure here. And anyway, we are one with nature, but we are all part of a bigger structure. So how do we contribute to that? Is what is the driving force. So becoming really aware of what are the values and mission of the organization, having that organizational savvy, bringing it that into the core of you, how you align yourself first, and then align your team and make them walk with you and collaborate with you.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's akin to what I also teach folks and mentorship and in trainings when you're talking about career progression, right? Advancing from where you are to where you want to be. If it doesn't align, then it's a misalignment, and you're not going to go anywhere. But I love that you shared that. Now, folks, we're going to be selling T-shirts that say 3 C's on it. No, just messing around. It
Love
just
that.
came to my head. It was a wonderful thought. But the 3 C's and the valuable 3 C's for folks to really hone in on. If you're in that position and you want to ensure that you start taking step towards progressing not only for yourself but for your people, because guess what, once you stepped into a leadership position, you ceased. And if a leader cannot understand that, you ceased, because now everything that you do is for your team,
Mm,
for them to succeed, right? uh, uh, the biggest error a leader can ever do is get to a point and think that they have so much more to go, and they start leaving people behind. Uh, One of the things I like to do in a room when I'm asked to come in and assess and do an evaluation is I stay totally quiet so that I can find out who the true leader is. And
mm,
usually I look in for the keys of where the eyeballs go.
mm,
Once the communication starts, people start looking to get cues from this one person.
mm,
And this person could be in leadership position standing up and talking, but I see all the eyeballs and I say, okay, that's it. That's
mm.
the one, you know. And
Yeah.
so um so we bring the 3 C's in, and we're established. The group is growing. And how do I replicate a mindset? Because
Mm,
that's in leadership, we look for the replication,
mm.
usually in good, right? We don't try to replicate the bad, but in the good. But mindset is a hard thing to replicate because
Mm,
it's an individual mind. You may influence some thoughts and you may influence some actions, but do we truly ever replicate a mindset?
mm. No, that's a very valid point, Enrique. We cannot really replicate a mindset. Um, but we can share the strategies and to the best of our ability ensure that it's understood in the same way but implemented in the very unique way, because that's what makes it special. So um, for a leader, it's very important to create that safe space. First is to lead by example. Who are you being? Because believe me or not, whether we think we are adults, we still have the kids inside of us. So we learn more by observing than by like teaching. We're more of observers. So if you're leading, if you're showing that, it's going to inspire. And inspiration is much more powerful than influence. I like to say it. If you do it and you're not trying to, impose that because you're in a leadership position, but by being yourself and showing up with that standard, you are inspiring more people than you'll possibly ever know. So one is to lead by example. Second is to be able to create that safe space, where you showcase that I trust you no matter what, and I give you a little bit of autonomy is very important. That you give them that choice. So you share the tools, but you give them the choice to and I mean, it's a wrong usage of word, not give them the choice, but make them aware that they have a choice. All of us have a choice. So making them aware of how they can choose to live this and trusting them with the way they want to exercise it. So creating that safe space or a safe environment for your team where they are able to exercise it in their own ways and not in an enforced way. And then constantly being, not just saying that I'm the leader, listen to me, but creating, again, as you rightly said, that being there as a coach, as a mentor, as a guide, and then saying, I know for a fact that this is what our value mission is. We know where we're going, as we all should know, but I'm not the one alone driving the ship. We are there together. And I might be answerable and accountable to people up ahead of me, like the higher positions, but here you are, and I'm your supporter, and I want to become invisible. I want you to be doing, you to be shining, while I support you to do this. So mentoring them, coaching them, and aligning them, and giving them the tools always of the healthy growth mindset, is the best way forward to actually replicate, if you might say, to get replicated. Because a leader's job is to ensure that, that the tools are being utilized, not in the way that the leader wants, but in the unique way of the team. That's what's going to make it shine, but that the tools are utilized. So ensuring that the information has traveled well, so communication again, connection where it's in the safe space that you create for them, and collaboration in making it happen, to meet the team goals.
Absolutely wonderful. You were mentioning that whole process, and I'm thinking, number one, if a leader has to say, I'm the leader, everybody stop listening. Right? Number one. If you have to say that, you're not the leader, everybody stop listening. But more importantly, allowing your life to provide a natural succession plan for your company, for your place of work. I remember going to a job site very first day, and I told the person that would be immediately under me, I said, in a year, I want to be out of here.
Mm,
In a year, I have to take all that I have to make sure that you replace me. This was the very first day
mm.
at the job site. And I'm already thinking replacement. Their eyes were big because people don't do that.
Wow.
And a leader's job is to ensure that the person that comes after them is fully capable to do that and no one miss you.
Mm,
And that's very hard for people to understand
yeah,
and even to put in practice, right? Everybody doesn't want to be, oh, I just don't want to disappear and be forgotten. No, that's how it should be. People should be able to continue on as if you were never there, but with the same success. And so,
absolutely.
it's wonderful. So, folks, if you're listening and you're having an issue with mindset, if you're having a challenge in setting your mind to the right thing in the right place, then you need to contact Vandana because she will put you where you need to be. Please share with us how they can do that.
Absolutely. So, as we got connected through LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is the primary way. Please find me as Vandana Mohture on LinkedIn. You can visit me on my website. It's called createmindart.com. And I'm on Facebook, and Instagram, but primarily, feel free to say hello wherever you find me. Just say hi and let's get connected. All the channels, it's not difficult to find if you just Google my name. It's pretty unique, so I'm the only one. You'll find me. Yeah, but let's connect.
Absolutely, folks. Don't wait. You know where you are in life. You know where you are in your mind. If this is something that you're challenged with, reach out and get connected. Vandana, thank you so much for sharing your morning. It's morning over there in Australia. It's evening here in Orlando. But sharing what you have been through, your journey, and especially those tips to help somebody create a great mindset for themselves. So I'm going to hope that everybody reaches out to you, but I'm going to put that information as part of the video and the show notes for them to be able to have that ready and handy. Folks, one more stop on my international tour month, and we next week we'll be in the UK. But for
Woohoo!
today, Australia has the stage. Thank you,
Yay!
Vandana, for being with us. and thank you for sharing all that wisdom.
Thank you, Enrique. It was an absolute pleasure to be having this conversation with you. Yeah, and I look forward to many more.
All right, folks, as we love to close the show, success to you.